Good morning, CSL Tucson. Good morning, everybody online. I am so honored to get to be back here again. I was here at the end of September for the first time, and it was so much fun. I hope for you and for me. The Matrix is what we all remember. So, what I am super excited about today is, yes, wholeness. Wholeness is my jam. When Sharon sent me possible talks that were available, and I saw that wholeness was a possibility, and specifically today, embracing wholeness, I knew that was the one that I wanted to jump in on. So let's just honor that last week concluded a powerful month as well. This whole, the mundane, the sacred, and the profane, oh my. I really appreciated your talk from last week, and I loved that you brought in that story from Zen Master Sono. Both the invitation to ongoing Thanksgiving, the endless Thanksgiving of thank you for everything. I have no complaints. I always want to say I regret nothing, but I have no complaints. I love that that story was there because it has this piece of the reminder. I don't know if you remember this part, but people went to see Master Sono, even though they already knew what she was going to say. They knew anyways. And she said the same thing every single time. And isn't that kind of the way we are, though, as humans? Like, we just need all the reminders, all of them. We can know something, and then we just need to hear it again and again. So I'm really grateful for Sunday practices like this where we can come together and remember. I even love that in your bulletin, it says Sunday reminder. It just encourages this part of my humanity that says it's okay to sometimes forget. Like, this is part of the human condition. And so I am grateful to get to be right here with you today. And ultimately, what we are invited to remember is wholeness. Like, this is where it all starts. The one infinite reality is one. This is one of our 10 core principles for Centers for Spiritual Living. And it says that the divine whole is all there is. There is nothing else outside of it. It called all of what is and will be and whatever has been into being of its own stuff. Everything that we see, everything unseen, is the stuff and substance of the one. And as it is all there is, and as we are, well, we must be of it. I love how logical that is. And in practitioner training, this is a huge thing because you're learning to pray the affirmative prayer, the 5-step treatments. And granted, we're all sort of dipping into that anyways, but in the role of a practitioner, it's like, you've got to know this for yourself. Like, this is what the one is, and if it is all there is, it has to be that which I am. There's nothing else I can be. And so here's the thing. We cannot help but be an expression of wholeness right now, right where we are, right how we are right now. As it is one power, we cannot help but be that power right here where we are, right how we are right now. As it is one mind, we cannot help but be that mind right here where we are, right how we are right now. And when we anchor in and remember this truth, then we can harness the power of it, right? Then we can really call into and through us that power and that wholeness and that wisdom in through our lives. So this month, this final month of 2023, we are invited to intentionally anchor into the truth of wholeness. Ernest Holmes says, the spark which burns at the center of our own soul is caught from the living and eternal flame of spirit. And so our charge this month is to recognize this divine spark of wholeness, to nurture this divine spark of wholeness, and express this divine spark of wholeness in ourselves first, and then in others in the world around us. So this month, as you move through each service, each workshop that's happening next week, the invitation is to remember and know that we are wholeness and to deepen into living as wholeness. So the place to start is right where we are and embracing wholeness within ourselves. Because as much as we want to see it in somebody else, we're only going to be able to see it in somebody else to the degree that we can see it in ourselves. We'll only be able to honor it in somebody else to the degree that we can really honor it in ourselves, or support it in somebody else to the degree that we can support it in ourselves. Now, with one exception, and I think that's babies. I have my little friend with me. This is Candace. I got Candace when I was in 2nd grade. And I love her very much. She has some sunspots on her face just like I do, and that's okay, right? There's something about babies that when we see babies, we just know they are good, right? Like there is 0% question of their wholeness, of their goodness, of their perfection. There's even this like knowing that the veil is so thin between that which created them and that which they are. Like we just know this. And so this is the place that I think is really important for us to start. Because when I see you, I can know your wholeness to the degree that I know my own. And if I'm having a wonky day or if I'm forgetting right here, I might have a hard time really knowing that for you. And that's okay. But when we see a baby, we just know somehow it's true. And we've all started as babies, people. Do you remember this? It doesn't matter whether it was a couple decades ago or a number of decades ago. It doesn't matter. We all started as babies. We all started as that brilliant ball of cute, adorable goodness that other people looked at you and said, oh my gosh, there is no doubt in my mind how whole she is. There is no doubt in my mind how one in the one this little one is. So here's the tricky part. We're whole. Excellent. Let me read my premise, okay? We're just going to go with that and then I'll come back. All right. We experience a life of wholeness flowing through our bodies and the body of our affairs as the truth of wholeness flows first through our consciousness. All right? So we experience that life of wholeness externally, or like through our human experience and in the body of our affairs, as we know the truth of wholeness in our consciousness. All right, so I just pointed to my head because we are so attached to our consciousness being in our human mind. We're so attached to, can a friend hold Candace for, would you hold Candace? Oh, there, okay, thank you. I might need her back in a little bit, but you just hold her real gently. Yeah, thank you. We are so attached to words, but do you know that before a baby is 6 to 9 months older, like right at the 6 to 9 month point in an infant, they have the capacity to hear and understand all of the 800 phonemes that make up the world's languages. So a baby has the capacity to learn any language there is, to communicate anyway. And I think that's really interesting because this idea of our consciousness simply is part of who we are. So when a baby is born, that consciousness is there before words are attached to it. And so even though we oftentimes think of our consciousness as being in our logical reasoning mind where we have words attached to it, the truth is that our consciousness is far more expansive than that. And what Ernest Holmes talks about is our self-knowing mind. And so I want to read this piece from Ernest Holmes, and we're going to bridge two things together. First, we're going to anchor into the truth that life is a unified whole. It is wholeness. and how we are connected to that. So this is from chapter 20 in the Science of Mind text. And for those of you who are new, Ernest Holmes is the founder of our teaching, Science of Mind, that is the philosophy behind Centers for Spiritual Living. So Ernest Holmes talks about unity, saying, reason declares that that which is infinite cannot be divided against itself. The infinite is, therefore, indivisible and consequently a perfect unit. All of it is present at every point within itself. There is no place where God is not. There is a perfect union then between us and God. And to the degree that we are conscious of this union, we incorporate this consciousness in our word. Within this infinite mind, each individual exists not as a separated, but as a separate entity, as an individualized center of God consciousness. So again, this is where oneness, that core principle of Centers for Spiritual Living, comes from. The one infinite reality, oneness, the whole, creates everything out of itself. Life is a unified whole. And I'm just going to clarify wholeness, meaning all is included. Nothing is left out. Nothing is missing. All is as it needs to be, available, functioning for the fullest expression of that which it is. There is more than enough of whatever is needed to reveal its truth. Notice how that lands for you in this now moment, in your body, in your mind. Do you sense resonance, dissonance? And just notice. Again, from the Science of Mind textbook, our self-knowing mind is the instrument which perceives reality and realizes truth. All illumination, inspiration, and realization must come through self-knowing mind in order to manifest in us. So self-knowing mind, that consciousness, that God consciousness that is before our human word is attached to it. The knowing, and knowing that we know beyond logic and human reasoning. So a life of wholeness, it flows through our experience only because it first flows through our consciousness. And we know we're united in the whole because of our self-knowing mind. So if you even back up to that question I asked you, how does this land in your body at this moment? Is there dissonance or resonance? And remember, I said, just notice. Were you able to notice what was happening in your own system? That is self-knowing, the ability of ourselves to kind of witness our own human experience. So we naturally, irresistibly are drawn to this. It's just part of how we are. We're born with it. It's literally how we're born. And only by each individual realizing our unity in the great whole can we experience and embody satisfaction in our own unique expressions of the one. So again, just to clarify in case you weren't sure, from the inside out, here, I'll hold Candace. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, hi, honey. Yes, my darling. Oh, I love my baby. Yeah. We are united in the whole, and we are thus whole ourselves. From the outside looking in, we already said this. We know this about babies. Oh my gosh, my body just wants to rock as I'm holding this baby. Isn't that so funny? We see their inherent goodness and wholeness. And we know that this baby cannot help but be the fullest expression of spirit right where it is. It simply reveals the truth of the one. This was how you were when you were a baby. You couldn't help it. It just is how you were. And do you want to know something else about babies? When they start out, they have no idea that there's anything other than the one. And there is something crazy about that 6 to 9 month phase, because that's also when babies start to go, oh, wait a second, there's some skin around this thing that I'm experiencing. Like they start to experience their body in a new way. Before then, they don't even know that they're really separate from their mom. They think that it's all just one. It's all just whatever it is. And so there's this shift that begins to happen in infants when they begin to sense that there is distinction between their caregiver and who they are. And there's also something that happens where they begin to have a sense that there's a difference between wants and needs, and that they can express in a new way. So something interesting, though, is that nobody has to teach them to cry if they're hungry, and nobody has to teach them to like coo if they're satiated. Like, again, there's this knowing that is just intuitive, innate within infants. I mentioned that there aren't words attached, right, in a little baby. But I think if we in our now adult forms could attach words to it, this is what I think it would sound like. I am included. Nothing is left out. All that I am is as it needs to be. I have more than what I need to express myself. I am known as I am. And when babies have attuned caregivers, there's a reinforcement of that. Like even this like natural, oh honey, yes, you're all right. Yeah, I'm right here with you. And when we experience that as infants, it reinforces that knowing of wholeness within us. And then as we grow, as we start to go, oh, wait a second, there's a me, and then my mom is there. And now that I know that my mom is there, all of a sudden I know when she's not there anymore. And all of a sudden I know when not only is she not there, but I know when somebody new comes in and it's not somebody I'm familiar with. And all of a sudden I know that something doesn't feel so good when I'm expressing myself and that I'm not feeling satiated. And it feels really scary. And I don't know what to do about this. So sudden unfamiliarity with new others can be experienced. New realization of absence of the caregivers, or discomfort from attended cries. And this introduces the experience of losing track of our inherent wholeness and unity in the one. You can feel like something's off, perhaps uncomfortable or even painful. And again, babies don't have words for it, but the perception of it can sound something like, I'm not safe. The world is dangerous. And it might mean, what if all is not as it should be for the fullest expression that I am? Or it might be, I'm alone. Do I even exist? What if I'm not actually included? No one understands me. My needs don't matter. What if I'm left out? What if there isn't enough for what I need to reveal the truth of me in the world? And again, an attuned caregiver might be able to provide some understanding and soothing as the infant rides these new waves of dysregulation and discomfort. And it might sound something like, oh, honey, that was so alarming. It was really scary, wasn't it? Yeah, I know. And I just want you to know you are safe. It's okay. It's okay. And this can help an infant remember and bridge that gap that has started to be created in a human condition, so that they can go, oh, that's right. The inherent truth is that I'm whole. This is still right. This is still true. And what that does is it helps us learn to cope through those difficult things later on in life. Unfortunately, would you hold baby Candace again? Oh, no, I'm gonna keep her. Actually. All babies don't have attuned caregivers. You may or may not have had an attuned caregiver. And even if you did, there were times when that attuned caregiver missed something because of their own humanity. And not only that, but there are direct teachings from our parents and caregivers that tell us we're separate, that tell us we have to be careful. Don't cross the street. Stay away from strangers. It puts this idea in that says, oh, I am separate. I have to be careful. And then we're taught to question our wholeness in other ways by unconscious things that people say without even thinking about it. What were you thinking? You should know better. Be a good girl. Be a good boy. Do what I say. What's wrong with you? And in the absence of understanding, whether from an attuned caregiver or from our own knowing, in the absence of understanding and in the presence of human discomfort, our human mind makes things up. And it says, okay, it must mean, all right, I thought it might be true and it must be. And so we start to learn from the outside in to question our wholeness and to consider the possibility that we are separate, that we are divided, that we are broken, lacking, missing the mark. We are taught from the outside in that all is not necessarily included, that things may be left out or missing, that all is not as it should be. And so I just invite you again. What has this looked like for you? Perhaps when you were a little infant, or in your childhood, or teens, or 20s, or 30s. There's nobody here older than 30, so we'll just stop right there, right? But it doesn't matter how long it goes. If there's ever any part of us that says, ouch, that hurt, that is a part that has felt separated. And the invitation to wholeness is to say, oh, my dear one, I am so sorry that you believed that. I really get why you took that thought on, but it's not true, honey. Come back into the fold. Come back in to where I am. It is safe here. Because when we lose touch with our inherent wholeness and unity in the one, we experience that internal and external struggle. We seek to stop the pain. It hurts. It goes against the fiber of our being to be separate. It is not the truth of who we are. So again, that's the place that this intrinsic knowing comes forth that says something is not quite right here and I need to be made whole. And like we just said, the pain doesn't just happen when we're little. A lot of it does. When in that birth to 5-year range, it does. We take on these misguided beliefs. But we can take on other ones as we grow. And not only that, but we reaffirm those things that we took on when we were little. So we might be in our 60s and it's like, yep, this has been around for a long time, right? And so to manage and be with that discomfort, we've got a lot of strategies. Do you have any strategies? Do you know of any? I don't know. I mean, mine is like, I can't do it. That's one of mine. Like, I give up. I throw my hands up. I can't do it. Emotional collapse. Maybe it's blame or falling into like black and white thinking, rigid ways that the world should operate and people should be. Or resistance to structure. Quitting, trying harder. Lots of strategies that we have. Or we turn to something outside of us to fix us. Because again, we knew from the inside out at the very beginning that we were whole, perfect, and complete. We knew that. We learned from the outside in something might be wrong. And so that ego part of us looks outside to fix it. And so it might be looking for that parent. Oh, I just wish dad would like see me. I wish he would just notice me. Or we look to religion. Or we look to a therapist or a podcast or a book or a crystal. I mean, there's lots of different things we can look to. And so again, I invite you, what has this looked like for you? What has it sounded like or felt like for you? Without any judgment or drama, just notice what comes to mind as you consider how you've tried to manage the discomfort and struggle when you've lost touch with your inherent wholeness and unity in the one. Thing is, those strategies don't work, or they seem to work for a little while. But then as soon as something happens that triggers that pain point of wholeness, we fall right back into the pain of what if it's true? And we effort so hard again and again to pull ourselves back together. As Ernest Holmes says in The Art of Life, our difficulty is that we have been trying to unite that which was never divided. We have been trying to unite that which was never divided. We've been trying so hard to find the missing piece, to finally fit in, to earn enough to be happy, to prove to the world that we really are whole, to not feel lonely, because it's so painful to touch the belief that is terrified that that is the truth. But that which is infinite cannot be divided against itself. All of it is present at any point within itself. There is no place where God is not. There is perfect union between us and God. And to the degree that we are conscious of this union, we incorporate this consciousness in our word. We exist as an individualized center of God consciousness. It was true when we are babies, and it is true now. It is true now. It is true now. I just keep holding baby Candace here. She's very important, evidently. As our self-knowing mind is the instrument that perceives reality and realizes truth, a life of wholeness cannot help but flow through our experience as it flows through our consciousness. Are you willing to let this be an anchor point, a reference point for your life? To know that the truth is you are infinitely and always connected to the whole, right where you are. There are some ways that we can practice this. And what occurs to me, especially as I'm holding this little baby, is that there's something really important about an embodied experience. Because so much of this happens in our brains. And the reality is that like the cells of our being really want to know. They really want to remember. And when we're willing to drop from our thinking brains into the wisdom of our bodies, something new can happen. And what I feel is that my arms feel so good holding a baby. Thank you for holding her earlier. And I'm just curious, is there anybody that would like to hold a little thing in their arms and just see what it's like? Any takers? Yes! And so that is literally an embodied experience. I know it might sound a little kooky, especially if we get really caught in our brains, but even taking a pillow, like from your couch, and holding it in your arm is incredibly soothing to our physical somatic experience. And there are a couple things I want to mention, and then we're going to have a little experience of our own today. But one of the things I want to invite you to is being willing to touch the intuitive, intrinsic knowing that resides in the very center of your being through wonder and curiosity, a what if. Not a what if it's true that I'm not whole, but what if it's true that I am? What if it is true that nothing is missing? What if it's true that right now everything is exactly as it needs to be for my fullest expression right here where I am? What if that's true? So through wonder and curiosity, to be willing to be in that space with your own self. What if it's true? The next thing is to intentionally remember that you were born as wholeness. And that wholeness is still so. Nothing has changed. And this can look like a simple affirmation of God is the wholeness I am. God is the wholeness I am. And the third thing is reverse engineering. To hold a baby or to pull out a picture of yourself as a little one and to allow yourself to really see that little one and know how good he, she is. To know how here with myself. And the experience we're going to have right now is through a song. And so we're going to begin to play that. And as it plays, I invite you, if you're comfortable, to just gently close your eyes and drop in whatever way feels available to you into this knowing that right where you are, God is. That wholeness is being breathed in, through, and as you right now. And if it feels good, you can place a hand over your heart space and just see what that's like. Or maybe you want to wrap your arms around your own self. Yeah. And just notice what it's like to be right here with you. And hear this song as a song of the divine being sung through your own self-knowing mind to your heart.
You can relax now. Come on and open your eyes.
Yeah.
Breathe deeply now. I am with you.
That's right. Right now.
Oh, my sweet, sweet child. Who do you think you are? You are the child of God, and that will never change.
This is what is true right here and right now. It has always been true. There has never been a moment when it wasn't true.
You had a dream. You misunderstood. You thought we were separate, but now you hear my voice and you can relax now.
Just breathe that in.
Come on and open your eyes. Breathe deeply now. I am with you. You are the love of my life. You are my one creation. You are eternity, and that will never change.
So what if it is true that you are wholeness expressed right here where you are right now?
You had a dream. You misunderstood. You thought we were separate, but now
feel of your own hand against your heart space, your arms embracing yourself. It's safe right here where you are. You are one in the divine one. And this life of wholeness cannot help but flow through you because it is now alive and active and known in your consciousness. This is the way of embracing wholeness. And let's just anchor this in with some prayer right now. And in this moment, I recognize the one infinite reality as being all there is. The one power, one presence, one infinite knowing that is divine wisdom and deep, abiding peace that cannot help but be expressed as wholeness, as it is only one. There is nothing outside of it. Its center is everywhere and its circumference is nowhere. So I know that right here where I am one in the one, that it is alive, moving in, through, and as me, expressing wholeness right here where I am. And as I know this for myself, I know this for each beloved here in person, on Zoom, in the sound of my voice, that each beloved is one in the one, right where they are. That there is no place that they can be where God is not. That there is nothing missing. That there is nothing incomplete about them. And that every cell in their being remembers this truth that has been there since the beginning. And I just speak my word knowing this is so. And that any thoughts of lack or not enough or separation, that those get to just be released and dissolve back into the infinite sea of love that God is. So that all that is known right here and right now is the truth of wholeness, flowing through every thought and idea, every action, every word, every hope, every dream. That the life of God, life of wholeness, cannot help but flow through each one. And I am so grateful to know this is so, that God is the wholeness we are. So knowing that there is nothing else that needs to be said, I simply release my word into the action of universal law, knowing that it is done. And so it is.